come and go in their organization, and it has stayed, never gone. So let me introduce them quickly. Mimi Davidson, who is the Senior Manager of Knowledge Management and Communications at REI Systems, supporting NASA. She's going to be talking about the road, leveling NASA's IT workforce. So there's a lot to say, and Mimi, we're excited that you are a longtime partner, and NASA's always been one to share. The other person I have joining us is Carol Southwood. She's a Senior Project Manager. And Carol, I actually walked into a session she was doing at our process conference last fall. And she had a bunch of process people wowed by knowledge management. I said, that girl's got to do a repeat performance for us. So Carol, thank you. She's going to be talking about improving process execution and lowering risk through knowledge management. And process people paid attention to this. And then we are going to be joined a little bit later in the broadcast. We're having a few technical challenges, but by Shelley Tingle, the knowledge management representative at U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, talking about the road to discovery. She is with their engineering and research division, and they've done some really phenomenal things, and we recognized them last year as an Excellence in Knowledge Management Award recipient, and they are a level 5. So she's got a lot of things to say about embedding knowledge in the flow. Let me take just a couple of more minutes just to talk about this topic, because it's one of the tracks that you'll be joining us, and hopefully you'll be coming to hear about some of these. Knowledge management is most sustainable when it becomes part of everyday work. And we've done a lot of research on this. We've seen it in our work, and we have, when you really do this right and really focus on best practices, a lot of time employees do not recognize that they are doing KM. You know, that's the worst thing that can happen. So doing those works, and you want to start looking at those behaviors and understanding what those behaviors are, and creating approaches and strategies to help them do this. So when we start talking about put knowledge in the flow, there's really 6 things that APQC has identified. We look at the focus on KM solutions and on real business problems, embedding KM support in target business groups, making it easy to contribute, access, and use knowledge. That's a big deal. Integrate knowledge management into the way work gets done. Tie above the flow knowledge management, all the infrastructure you've built, into performance and goals of people. And then you have to help and support people along the way. It's 80% of your job is change, being a really good change agent. So with that said, I've asked our panel 3 different questions. They're coming prepared, and as they answer these questions, they'll be telling you a little bit about what they're going to be talking about in April. So we're hoping that we'll see you at the conference. So let me start with the first one. It's very easy. We'll give a description. Mimi, I'm going to come to you first. Talk a little bit about what you've actually done to embed knowledge management into the flow of everyday work.
Okay, yeah, and so those 6 areas that you just talked about, I think, you know, certainly across the board, those areas of KM, you know, we see them in our work and within the program. So, you know, even at a monthly program level, reporting level, so, you know, there's various templates and things that are used as best practices for meetings. And part of that is like a knowledge transfer area on that template. So I think by building that into the template for meetings and reportings, that there's already an expectation that the people are going to be, you know, including that in their reporting, just as a natural part of work. So that, you know, in some of these things predated me. You know, NASA has, of course, a huge legacy in KM. I've been working with the IT staff in particular, so working with the contractors that are providing IT services to NASA headquarters and the other agencies. And within those groups, you know, there's a lot of interesting unique kinds of, I guess you would say, challenges to bringing together multiple groups, multiple contracting companies. So, I think some other things, you find in technology, and probably wouldn't be a surprise, is things like using GitHub for test cases. So, in application development, Agile Scrum teams, development teams and application development, particularly testers, are using things like GitHub to record their test cases. They're finding their best practices, sharing, what those successful test cases look like for reuse. So that's, another example. There's a myriad of tools, probably a lot of people on this call or that we work with in whatever industry you're in. There's so many tools out there, right? That, whether it's ServiceNow or proprietary systems, like I just mentioned, GitHub, just all of them, all these tools really have sort of knowledge-based areas, places where people are expected to, to populate. Dealing with the federal government, there's a lot of compliance considerations. So at every project and project level, there's stage gate reviews. There's various compliance levels. So to go with those stage gate reviews, of course, there's documentation. So, and I think, that's probably one of the challenges. And if we are called to be like the knowledge management thought leaders in our programs and within the organizations we're in, we may struggle working with interdepartmentally to say, okay, this team's using this tool, this team's using this tool. How do we make sense of all of it? How do we, instill that that leadership across the organization? So, I could keep going for a couple examples, but I don't want to take all the time.
You will in April. We will have you do that. Thank you so much. Carol, let me throw the same question to you so you can give people kind of an overview of what you've done to get knowledge.
Yeah, so knowledge management has been identified as an enabler to the quality management system, or QMS, according to ICH Q10, which are some of the regulations that we follow in biotech pharmaceutical. So within research and development, I've worked with the business to overlay the flow of information with the flow of work. So we've created business process models or a process hierarchy to describe all of the work that we do from bench to shelf. And alongside of all of that work, there is training and documentation, controlled or not controlled. Joe Cubicle can go and create a quick reference card or a best practice or a lessons learned that sort of sits out in his computer or shares it with some others. All of this really great, healthy information, it supports those process activities for the execution of those tasks. So like I said, we've overlaid all of that information with the flow of work to really start to see what's the volume that we have. Is there redundancy? Is there misalignment with the process? So the documentation or the training is describing an old version of the process. It didn't capture maybe a system change or an automation activity that occurred, through some initiative. So we've been able to really start to identify, hey, we've got a risk area, we've got a gap in documentation, or we have an opportunity to really streamline some of that content. And all of this is owned by the community of practice within those networks and within those process hierarchies. So it's really been transformative for research and development.
Very good. You both are talking in the language of the business too. I think that's a big secret of success, being able to talk in language they understand. I think Shelley is on with us. Shelley, this is Cindy, and I'm going to throw Hi, so glad to have you on. Thanks for getting through some of the technical challenge. So I've introduced you already, and I've talked a little bit about your topic, the road to discovery. But I've asked each of the other panelists, Mimi and Carol, what have you done? Give a little bit of a couple or 3 minutes of the overview of what you've done to actually embed KM into the flow of work.
So one of the things that ERDIC has done to embed KM into our practices has really been a change in mindset. It has been more of a paradigm shift of educating our people, of understanding that we have to do a better job of collaborating if we're going to be innovative and agile, to be able to also meet our customer needs so that we can execute more business. And so within ourselves, we had to do a paradigm shift of we have to release our knowledge to actually be a better organization. And so once our people, we kind of educated them on it is everyone's responsibility to do knowledge management, not just the knowledge management manager. It is everyone's responsibility, and then gave them the tools necessary to do that.
Very nice. And you're going to be talking about some of those tools when you come to see us.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Carol, I'm going to move to question 2 because I told everybody this is like speed dating. We're getting just a little taste of what you're going to hear, and then they're going to come all sit in your session. So this is always the big question, right? What did success look like? When and how did you know that this was going to be successful or that it was successful?
Yeah, so to answer this question, I'm actually going to start with the problem statement that we had first, which was sort of how do you demonstrate that there was effective learning for our given processes? And that was a really difficult question to answer. And because there's so much content, we've got all sorts of skill levels for given processes. And so we had to do a lot of digging to understand, what content did we have? What were those skill levels? What was our audience size? What were some of the corrective and preventative actions? What were some of the deviations that we were starting to see? What was the risk score associated with that? So like I said, we had overlaid the flow of information with the flow of work, and that gave us a sense of what was the residual risk. So how much content was there associated with a given activity? And a measure of success that we saw was we were able to reduce some of that redundancy, ensure that content was in alignment with the process, so that we're improving compliance, we're improving performance, that there is a standard best practice, and lessons learned were then actually getting integrated into the flow of work. So it wasn't just lessons learned being shared at a brown bag seminar or a lunch and learn, but it was being adopted by the business process owners and baked into the processes themselves. So that was certainly a success. That was a win for us.
That's powerful, Carol. That's when you can start talking in the measures that the business understands. You got a home run there. Shelley, what about you guys? Same question. What was your signpost of success?
I believe ours was when we received feedback from the Federal Employee Viewpoint Survey. And so this is we can't survey our people except through this one survey. It's a government survey. And when we really started embracing knowledge management, we could see those numbers really go up in categories like employee engagement and communication. And also our retention numbers on our new employees also went up. And so all of these were good signs that we were embracing this new culture.
Very nice. Very good. Mimi, over to you. Tell us what you guys see as success.
Well, like I said, it's maybe a less mature of an organization because of the nature of what we're doing and the way these contractors come together to deliver IT solutions for NASA. But, I would say on the educational front, there's various, in-house on-demand tools for learning that there's, we're trying to raise that awareness. I'm some lunch and learns happening. We have some different things even at REI that we're doing to spread awareness of the various kinds of work we're doing for NASA. There's various projects and contracts and things going on. So it's great for the business to hear about, here's a solution that we created that is solving this problem. And, just that information sharing in some ways more informal, but it seems like it's taking hold, and there's more kind of critical mass moving towards interest in that and attendance and that kind of thing. So, those are all going in the right direction, right?
That's so great. For years we've said participation is the holy grail for knowledge sharing and transfer. The more you have participating, the better it gets. So I like that. So, all right, Shelley, I'm going to come to you. We're going to keep moving forward because if I'm not getting them excited to come see you all in April, then they're just not that excited. We're going to have a lot of people at the conference coming to see you guys. So look, you have to ask this question, and I don't expect you all to give us a whole list, but just talk a little bit about a lesson, a challenge while you were doing this. So you're moving from that, got it together conceptually, I'm linking to in the flow type work. What was really tough? Shelley, start us off on that.
One of our biggest challenges was trying to actually communicate why we were doing this. And so trying to say, why do knowledge management? Like, why are we doing this? Why should I take time out of my workflow of doing what seems to be one more task? Even if you embed it, a lot of times it's still one more thing to do to a to-do list. And so a lot of it was stressing the importance of it and then repeating those success stories. Because the best thing that happened was word of mouth of saying, hey, I found all my information in this one place, and the success of them finding the information they needed at the right time.
Very good. Nice one. Mimi, what about you? What big challenge?
I would say the personnel themselves, it's a really kind of, I'll say, a volatile market. It's a hot labor market. There's always churn with professionals coming in and out of organizations. So, in some cases when you sort of feel like you're getting something established, that's when there's a churn. It could be a project manager that comes in or out that was really, the lead and, the go-to person. And, just those pockets of institutional knowledge and, trying to, prevent against those kinds of mitigate against those risks of losing that knowledge. Those are definitely challenges. And I think, KM, long-term success, those kinds of things take longer. They can take years. But, just with the nature of IT and changing technology and how that impacts the personnel that are, working on these projects, that constant churn, I think, and even mergers and acquisitions, like the businesses themselves and just the nature of that, all those things really disrupt KM sometimes.
Yeah, and as you all know, we're into disruptions. We're wanting to look at them and dissect them. Carol, what about you? What's been a big lesson?
I have three in no particular order. So I echo what Shelley said, the creating the message around sort of what's in it for me and getting that buy-in. I was lucky enough to sort of identify an early adopter, a champion that I was able to pilot with. And from that, we had a success story that we were able to sort of share out with others, because my second challenge was sort of showing the ROI of KM and having concrete evidence. Performance improved, compliance improved, CAPAs reduced, deviations reduced. So I had to have those numbers handy. That was a challenge. Another challenge was sort of meeting the business where they are. Sort of in some pockets, KM was seen as a buzzword. And I really had to sort of shift my language a little bit, use their vocabulary and start saying things like, well, we're going to associate with risk, and we're going to associate with, process management and documentation. and start to pull in that language. I never said the term community of practice. I could not. It wouldn't have gotten me far. I had to say things like your process hierarchy owners or your business, your BPOs or your SMEs. I could not say COP. So I just had to sort of learn that vocab and meet them where they were.
Wow. Carol, so that is so, as I said, boy, your worlds have collided and you've handled it well. It's been a good 12 years ago, APQC stumbled on the phrase above the flow and in the flow. And above the flow is where we all, as knowledge management practitioners and leaders, love to talk about communities and lessons and how this all works. And you're so right. You start talking that and you just lose your audience in just a second. So I'm hoping you all are going to expand on this a little bit more when we see you coming up at the conference. So I have one more question, sorry, because and again, this is just a tidbit. I want you just to tease them, but you guys have been doing this for a while. You're in that flow. You've got a lot of capabilities that are supporting your business and what's valuable to them. So Mimi, I'm coming to you first. What's on the horizon? I mean, you've got to be thinking a few steps ahead of your audience. What will happen next for you all?
I think in some ways it's sort of the convergence of KM and the employee experience, because you look like onboarding or how we're equipping the teams with information they need to do their jobs, and what that experience looks like. And I think there's a real direct relationship between those two areas. And I think KM, I think there's so many things and ways. At the beginning of this talk, you had these 6 different areas that you were highlighting. There's so many things and ways that KM can enhance the organization. It is all of these areas like employees and their skill sets, and then also how that process looks like within the teams. So I would say addressing all those areas, but really looking at how KM can support employees and how they do their jobs.
Wow, individualizing KM, I love it, Mimi. Carol, what about you? What's a tidbit for what's next?
Yeah, so AI is definitely on the horizon, improving our search capabilities. We've gone through the knowledge mapping exercises, and that's been really lovely, but in a global organization, that's not sustainable. So we are pulling in improved search capabilities and starting to offer recommended results based on similar roles in the organization. So that's our future.
You're going to love that. Boy, it's here, isn't it? Shelley, what about you guys? What's on the horizon?
What's on the horizon for us is a wide variety of products where we're going to leverage the capabilities that were identified in our framework. When we went through the assessment with APQC and we were able to identify those capabilities, last year we invested in what I would consider a disruptor of putting our capabilities on many video screens to send to Congress, which has resulted in several $1 million worth of R&D that is now coming to ERDIC. And so we're going to build on those successes of learning how to leverage our knowledge of what we now know are our capabilities.
Very good. And you're going to bring some of those as show and tell, right, Shelley?
Oh, absolutely.
Because I'm telling you, it's that was a wow. We saw a preview of it, but she'll be actually in this breakout, so you'll get a chance to really look at those. Zakia, let me ask you, I don't know if we have any questions that we need to cover. I know we don't have a lot of time left, but I just wanted to pause for a minute and see if there was anything else before we conclude.
We don't, Cindy, but thank you so much, ladies, for all your responses to the questions. And I wanted to open it up to our audience. If you do have a question, please use the raise your hand feature, and I can open up your phone line to ask it live, or you can put it in the Q&A panel to the right of your screen, and I can ask it for you. So we'll give them a second or two to do that. And
Good. I want to just comment on a couple of things that they said. Of course, you knew I couldn't stand it. So I do want to go back. The one thing I do want to emphasize, and we've said it a few times, but I want to emphasize, one of the most important things I think you can do is really get the language correct. That's such a big deal. And it's so hard for us, right? Because we love the knowledge management. We understand the value and the powerfulness of it. But it doesn't matter. It falls on deaf ears. And I think you all would agree with that. You've got to really get that right. And all the way from Carol, you talking about process, to Mimi, you talking about the agile and how they respond to that. And Shelley, just overall the communications and how you're talking about R&D, that really does, those are great examples of how to do this. All right, so Zakia, if no questions, we're running on, I told these ladies 30 minutes, it is like speed dating. I just want to I was so honored to be with the three of you today and once again learn from you. You make my job really fun and easy. So thank you all. We're looking so forward to seeing you. The conference is on April 30th, 2020 and May 1st, 29th, 30th, and 1st. I know Nancy's got a change in there for me. I got it. 3 days. We start on Wednesday afternoon. We'll move into Thursday and end on Friday. We're looking forward to seeing you all there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.